Awesome. Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm here today with Ed Kearney, who's the CEO of Valo, which is a awesome new product that's coming to the market. Ed has a background, essentially the Elon Musk of the hydrofoil world. And I look forward to talking to him about his new project and some of his other projects in the global shipping space, getting ships out of the water and up onto foils, living in the future. Ed, thanks for taking some time to join and speak with us today.
It's great to be here, Charles.
Awesome. So, I mean, we've known each other for a handful of years now, and you've been focused on finding ways to put vessels on hydrofoils for a few years now, looking at it through the kind of the tech route based in California. But, super interesting kind of the, I guess, the trajectory of some of the projects you've worked on that got us to where you are today. Maybe just give us a quick overview of your background as an engineer, and what kind of spawned your interest in hydrofoils.
Yeah, well, it all started when I was about 12 years old, back living in a small town in Australia called Canberra. It's the capital. Pretty small, not much going on in Canberra. And my dad showed me this video of some MIT grad students that built this hydrofoil rowing boat. It was called the Decavitator, and you can look it up on YouTube. Super grainy video. But this boat they built had a guy pedaling a bike with a big fan at the back, and it had hydrofoil wings on it. So the rowboat popped up out of the water and ripped across the river in the MIT campus. And then it broke a world record for a human-powered boat for speed. And from that point on, every time I looked at any kind of boat or marine craft, I'm like, why doesn't it have hydrofoils on it? Clearly, that's so much better. So that was kind of in the back of my brain since a very early age. Then I kind of progressed through college, started a PhD, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I also started an e-commerce startup at the same time as my PhD. And I tell you what, running a startup was a hell of a lot more fun than doing a PhD program. And unfortunately, the PhD program lost and the startup won. So I ended up dropping out of the PhD with a master's and working on startups. Then, the next important step in the journey, started another startup company, which is like a photography marketplace. And we wanted to come to America. We wanted to make it big. So we applied to the Y Combinator incubator program from Sydney, and then we got accepted. So we moved out here to California. But I was always wondering, like in my head, how does some kid from Canberra build hydrofoil boats and ships? Like had no idea of how to do this. Once I kind of landed in California and hanging out with people at this Y Combinator program, my mind just like exploded. This is the place where crazy stuff comes true. I met a guy who was making electric 737s, and I'm like, okay, I think I know how to actually make this cool tech a reality. So in about 2018, started the Boundary Layer Technologies with a vision to bring hydrofoil technology to the broadest, biggest segments of maritime, which were cargo shipping and cargo freight.
Yeah, so I mean, it was such a huge opportunity, and you spent a couple of years, and at some point you had a prototype that could carry 1 TEU. I think you guys had built out in Alameda there at the dock, which was, when I was out there a couple of years ago, we rode on it, and that was, it was a lot of fun. So the market for short sea shipping has always been such a tough market. In Europe, there's a good bit of it, obviously for passengers and for human transport. There's a lot of ferries and whatnot. Different markets have even in Greece back in the 70s, and they still operate today. They had a kind of a semi-hydrofoil vessel, but I mean, just the cost from air freight to vessel freight is so drastic. It seemed like a great potential there to create a smaller product that could go faster and burn less fuel.
Yeah, it was actually during my time running the e-commerce startup that I first experienced ocean freight and air freight, and we planned to do everything by ocean freight from Shanghai down to Sydney, and then every so often we'd screw something up or there'd be a delay and we need to make a deadline, so we upgrade to air freight. We pay, I don't know, 20, 30 times as much. We're just like, oh wow, that was painful. So the concept of what we were going to build at Boundary Light Technologies was a really small container ship, talking 20 TEU, so about the payload of a 747 freighter. It's fast, so it goes at 40 knots. And because it's so small, you can get it in and out of a port in about an hour. So, you don't have to sit there for 3 days to unload 20,000 boxes. You're unloading 20 boxes. So, it takes 1,000 times less to load. What the market you go after then is air freight. So a lot of folks end up spending a lot of money moving stuff around, short sea shipping routes, particularly intra-Asia, where there's islands everywhere. And, it's hard to get their stuff from one place to the other. So we developed this product, this concept ship called the Argo. It was a zero emissions vessel, and it could reduce air freight costs by up to 50%, whilst having transit times that were on par, and in some cases even faster than traditional air freight. So this was a product that a lot of folks were really into. We had letters of intent from people like Flexport, Fortune 500 companies like Western Digital, Schneider Electric, and Bosch, who pretty much said, if you can have this ship turn up Monday morning, 9 a.m., we'll load it with our goods, and you can deliver it to our distribution center or a transport hub. But building big ships is challenging, costs a lot of money, and especially for a startup company, going about our market entry in this way had some challenges.
Yeah, exactly. I know you had looked at kind of a smaller hydrofoil ferry, and then I guess with just the process of going through all that, figuring out a lot of the hydrofoil and the computer technology to articulate the wings, ultimately kind of led you to what you're working on today, which I guess was driven by, in some regards, just a lot of people are a bit more hesitant to go out and order a ship from a startup group backed by venture capital in California that's never truly built a vessel, and so you guys found this opportunity to find essentially a smaller craft that you could create. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right on. So the headwinds in the traditional maritime sector are a little steeper, a little stronger than we anticipated. Also, the kind of financial downturn the last few years also made it hard to kind of get the capital needed to build these big projects. And the majority of the cost wasn't in the technology, because you got to build a full-on 40-foot ship, which just costs a lot of money, and then the tech is another thing. So what we decided to do, after looking at the market and looking at other ways we could do this, we decided to enter the market with our same technology from the other end. We're going to start at the smallest end of the market that still needed the full flight control software, stability software, but with a small and fast to move product that people would love, that would set us up for growing into these bigger segments with high-powered systems as we moved on. So what we came up with, we call it the Valo Hyperfoil. And Hyperfoil is like a category of foiling personal watercraft or jet ski, if you want to call it that. But we see what we're creating is so very different from a jet ski. The only thing it has in common is the number of people you put on it and kind of the size. It's completely silent. It can slice through waves without feeling anything. So you can cruise at 30 knots through like 2 foot of chop, and it's just like flying on a magic carpet versus a jet ski, which would kind of be smashing around in the waves. We liken it to skiing in deep powder snow compared to skiing in moguls, and we know which one people actually love to do more than that. So we kind of pivoted to that about 18 months ago, and haven't looked back. Customer demand for this product was super high. We've got over 3.5 million of pre-sales. We have a few customers pay us up front just to get their hands on the first ones, and we've also been able to take the tech and the system we're putting in the personal watercraft size thing, doubling it up, and then we can put that into other recreational boats made by other people. So kind of like, you know, the outboard engine of the future. So really excited about a new direction. Yeah, I can't wait to have the product to ride and, you know, show everybody.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the video, it's absolutely amazing to see this thing operating. So you said it took about, what, 18 months to develop the first prototype on that front? I mean, what were some of the hurdles you faced going from a larger craft to whittling it down to this kind of more fun, you know, vacation? I put on this shirt today because it kind of had the Valo vibes. I think I'll wear this when I take my demo ride when you guys hit the market. But
yeah, you're making me envious. It's raining in Alameda at the moment. Let's see. So we pivoted. You know, I think it was about September 15th, 22, where we're like, all right, from this point on, we're making Valo Hydrofoils. And maybe January, February, we had the first prototype complete. So super fast. This was part of the reason why we picked this market entry. This is a product that we could build in our workshop with our own hand. We didn't need to partner with giant shipyards. We didn't need to wait, you know, years for things to happen. The size of the components we wanted, good overlap with electric vehicles, electric motorcycles. So a lot of the stuff we needed to build this much more readily available. The lead times on electrical components weren't like 6 weeks or 6 months, more like, you know, 60 minutes. So, you know, we blew an inverter once and we just get a new one in an hour. So, you know, that was kind of February when we had the splash the first prototype. Things that are more challenging about a small craft, it's a lot less stable. So the computer stability control system has to be a lot better. You can't just, you know, sweep a lot of stuff under the rug, which pushed our engineers to you know, make the software higher in accuracy and performance, which they did. We also learned a lot about the vehicle dynamics of something of this size. So if you look at the prototype video, it's got a certain wing configuration, and then the Valo Hyperfoil that we plan to build has a updated wing configuration with 2 struts instead of 3. So there's lots of learnings and developments and upgrades we got, which we wouldn't have had if we didn't build the first prototype. And the next one we have in the water, you know, in March, April this year, it's going to be one hell of a thing. Like nothing like this has ever been built ever in the world. So we're super excited to have it.
So you said it's what, 40 knot top speed for 2 people, or what runs through the dynamics?
Yeah, so we're capping the top speed at 35 knots for the vehicle. You know, we'll see how it feels. Now, that's pretty fast, especially in an open cockpit kind of thing. There's no windshield. You might need to wear goggles after a while. From chatting to our customers, this is kind of as fast as they wanted to go. When you're foiling, there's a whole dimension of extra experience and exhilaration that comes from it, rather than just flat out straight line speed. You do these banked coordinated turns. It feels like you're in a fighter plane. You're also above the water by, you know, so we have 2 feet of clearance above the surface of the water, and probably another foot of draft that you're not, you know, because the hull would sit about a foot into the water. So once you're actually 3 feet above the water, your whole perspective in the water improves, and it really is quite something different. You get about 2 hours of flat out runtime. So that's if you set off in a certain direction and cruise for 2 hours. It takes about 3 hours to charge an level 2 charger. Foils are fully retractable, so you can put it on a trailer. You can beach it if you really want. We generally say probably don't beach it because you might scratch it up a bit, but if you want to or need to, you can. And the back strut will semi-retract, just like an outboard. So for low water maneuvering, you can still putt around, get it onto either the beach or your Valo Hyperfoil trailer, and then take it back home and put it in the garage.
Yeah, it sounds super fun. So you've obviously brought on some really sharp, tech-minded engineers. What does the team look like that helped build the first prototype and that's kind of get this project into the water, so to speak?
Yeah, we've got a pretty talented set of engineers working the project at the moment. So Chief Technology Officer is Rio Baird. He used to work at another foiling boat company called Navier, where he delivered their very impressive prototypes. You've probably seen some videos of and photos of. In fact, if you look closely at a bunch of the prototype photos and videos, you'll see him on it. So he's an MIT guy, former McKinsey guy. He lives on a boat. He loves boats. So when it comes to like a lot of his engineering stuff, he looks out at some of these other boat companies and people trying to make stuff. He's like, why did they do that? That makes no sense from a boating perspective. So that's a really, really good set of skills and experience that he brings to the team. We've got folks like Paul Beaker. So he's kind of thought of as like the father of modern hydrofoil technology. He was one of the lead designers of the AC40s, America's Cup boats and things like that, as well as another handful of expert consultants and things from MIT and places like that. So we're very confident that the product we're building is like world class. Nothing like it's kind of been built before. It'll be high performing and it'll meet the requirements of our customers in terms of like safety, reliability, as well as being like super exhilarating and also look awesome. I mean, no one else will have one if you have one of these things. Yeah.
And so you guys so where do you stand now in the process? I know you're getting ready you've obviously raised a little bit of capital to get to where you are today. You mentioned all the pre-orders. I mean, that's a massive amount. How much are you selling it for, and where do you stand kind of in the process of capitalizing the business and getting to the final hurdle?
So the initial batch of production Valo Hydrofoils are going to cost $59,000 each. It's a very premium, very short run thing, and over time, the price will probably come down as we can get the volumes up. 80,000 jet skis are made each year, which is a huge number. So even if we just do 2,000 per year, which is like $100 million of revenue, that's still less than about 2% of the total market of jet skis. So it's a pretty exciting space. We're going to have the first pre-production one, so a vehicle that is the Valo Hydrofoil, not a prototype, but the actual vehicle. March, April this year. Then we're tooling up to build the first run of founders editions, of which we've already sold a few. We've got a long list of customers who kind of want them, and things like that. In terms of funding and things like that, we've got a community round open at the moment. So a lot of our customers actually said, "Hey, this is super exciting. Can we invest? Can we get involved somehow?" And traditional venture capital doesn't really work. It's like, okay, are you a established fund? No. Okay, well, this is going to be a bit complicated. But an exciting kind of development in the world of the capital markets is community rounds or equity crowdfunding is becoming, increasingly more mainstream, where folks can invest, as little as 100. People put in $10,000, $20,000 into these campaigns, so they can get exposure and some upside on some opportunities they see out there and people doing cool technology. So instead of just looking from the sidelines, they can actually kind of get involved. So we've got one of those campaigns up and running at the moment, sort of insiders only, friends and family. A lot of our friends and folks have said, "Oh, what are you doing here? Can I get involved somehow?" And they have. So that's kind of where we're sitting in terms of some fundraising opportunities.
Awesome. And how much money are you guys trying to raise? Or obviously to go to mass production, just give us kind of an idea of where that all stands.
So the community round, we're targeting about $1 million, raised for that, which gets us comfortably into building the pre-production vehicle, pays for all the tooling, which is a sort of large one-off expense. The tooling will last for about 400 to 500 hulls, so definitely good investment. As well as we've got this other commercial project where we're supplying a foiling system, so 2 of the Valo Hydrofoil power units side by side. We're supplying that to a boat builder, so they can build a foiling 18-foot boat. Okay. This is the model of how we plan to progress into all the other segments of boats, where there are so many different variants of boats. And what we think some of our competitors are doing wrong is you can't win a decent segment of that market, slice of that market, without just by making 1 or 2 or 3, even 5 boat models. You need to do something more intelligently. So that's why we're selling the system, so everyone can have a foiling electric boat. and a boat builder can just install it like they install an outboard. So what the funding will get us to is also delivery of that first pilot vessel. And then from that point on, we'll go back to the, we'll do a venture round, either a large seed or a Series A, to get this into, more mass production, spin up a factory facility kind of thing.
Yeah. So you have one boat builder that's interested in putting the system on some boats, or what's kind of been the interest on the larger pleasure craft market?
Yeah. So we've got one contract, who's paid us actual money to our bank account for this first system, and they've also got an interest in doing another 100 or so if this first one works well. We've spoken to, we've reached out just to a small number of boat builders in the US, pitching on this idea, and a lot of them are like, "This makes a lot of sense. We've explored making our products electric in the past, but you run up into the problem of, without the foiling technology, which reduces the energy consumption by a factor of 15, you end up with an electric boat that doesn't go very fast and doesn't go very far and costs a lot of money." So you have a few people buying them who want an electric boat, but they're not really good enough to replace the mainstream purchaser, who want more range, more speed, and a decent kind of price for what the performance is. We've also got a customer lined up for what we're calling the heavy industrial systems. So the way we're planning to go after all the segments of the maritime industry is we do Valo Hydrofoil for personal watercraft. We'll do 100 kilowatt and 200 kilowatt systems for recreational boats. And then once we get to the 500 and 1,000 kilowatt systems, well, pretty much just the same as what we're already building for these vessels. Now we're into the passenger ferry and the Argo-sized container ship projects. So we've got a partner we're working with up in Canada who's very interested in using those 1,000 kilowatt power systems and our software and foiling technology pretty much to build an Argo-style vessel. But in this mode of doing it, we are just the technology supplier, and we're not actually the shipbuilder anymore, which makes a lot of sense because that's how the majority of the shipbuilding world works. You have a project, you have a shipbuilder, you have an architect, you have a customer, you have an operator. Lots of people come together to build this thing. So we're focusing on the thing that we're good at, that scales, that is 98% technology, which is the foiling systems and the foiling software. And we can let someone else worry about all the other externalities about putting together one of these projects. So that is how things come full circle and how we end up accessing these giant markets of replacing air freight in a zero emissions way.
It's fascinating, and obviously the Valo Hydrofoil will be battery powered, and the little propeller is on the foil, is it? Or
yeah, that's right. So what we do is we have an electric motor above the water. It looks a little bit like an outboard engine, and it makes sense that outboard engines are so popular in that particular design. It's like tried and tested design that works really well, super reliable. We have a gearbox under the water and then a propeller on the lower pod. If you go to the website, you can see images of how it works. We have a lot of power delivered to this vehicle, so we're running about 45 kilowatts of power, which for a personal watercraft is not that much, but for a foiling vehicle where the drag is like a tenth of the drag, yeah, this is really gonna rip. It's gonna be quite a lot of power.
Yeah, I mean, I've been foiling on a kiteboard before, and just as soon as you get up out of the water and there's no noise, because typically with the boat, you have the engine, you have the noise from swimming into the waves and the vibration of the boat. But in foiling, once you kind of come out of the water and there's really limited noise, it's a totally amazing sensation.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're really looking forward to is how people will use our vehicle for exploring and enjoying water environments without being like obnoxious and loud and putting huge waves everywhere. You imagine there's a beautiful pristine like lagoon somewhere, and you're ripping through that on a jet ski, that's not really in line with the nice delicate nature environment you're operating in. But our vehicle, nothing gets emitted into the water. It's silent, barely makes a wake. It really couples this high-tech luxury product with this notion of exploration and adventure. So people don't really spend that much time looking around and exploring the water, because you can't. If you step on the water, you sink. So we wanted to make a vehicle that helps people go and enjoy these spaces.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And then with the bigger size vessels, will they have a traditional engine, or they will also have kind of propellers on the foils themselves?
Yeah, the main propulsion system will always be pretty much the same. Submerged propeller on the foil. That's the main, propulsive challenge with a foiling craft is, as you take off, the hull lifts out of the water, and you need to maintain the propulsion in the water somehow. So you can have big angle drive shafts, or you can have like a water jet and an inlet down low. But the method which we're using, which we think makes the most sense and simplest, is you just at the lowest extremity of the foils and struts, that's where you put the propeller. And then it's just a matter of making the power output higher for bigger vessels, make the wings bigger so they can lift up more things. In terms of how these lighter vessels will be powered, the first pilot vehicle is going to be battery electric. It is also quite possible to make a hybrid version with like a range extender. So if you do want to, go more than say 100 nautical miles, you can couple the battery system with a range extender, which will be a compact diesel engine or something like that. So you can probably double or even triple the range you want to go, while still being very efficient, because the diesel engine will be operating at its optimum point, charging the batteries. Or you could also run it overnight. So while you're cooking dinner or watching TV in your larger boiling boat, charge up the battery, so then come the next morning, you've got another 100 or so nautical miles range to go and continue your adventure in your 30, 40 foot overnight boat.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So what's been, Marhelm, we're a startup company as well. I understand kind of the ebbs and flows, and obviously you guys, had the pivot into Valo, which is going great. So what was kind of the toughest point of Valo as you guys to get the hydrofoil put together?
Yeah, I mean, persistence is a very important thing to focus on. Plenty of times things get hard, but the number one way that a startup will fail is if the founders give up. Like guaranteed 100% failure rate. We kind of got used to telling a certain story around the container freight. We had customers, we had a market, we had a plan. And when you do pivot, you need to start telling a very different story. And sometimes people get a bit of whiplash. They're like, I thought you made container ships. And we're like, we will eventually, through a slightly different way. And also, like, each product has advantages and disadvantages in terms of how it appeals to different people. So across the US broadly, the Valo Hydrofoil is a super popular product. But if you ask a lot of VCs, you're like, hey, do you think a jet ski company is a good investment? They think jet skis are stupid and they shouldn't exist. So different challenges with the product and how it's perceived. So the storytelling becomes a very important aspect. How can we communicate exactly how do we convince people this is an exciting thing and it's important to the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of personal vehicles and kind of fun toys that they produce a lot of them. 80,000 jet skis. Obviously, I think there's a lot of people that would disagree with the venture capitalists, and maybe jet skis should exist. And if you're trying to enjoy yourself on the beach, you can come flying back and forth. Maybe you would agree with the venture capitalists that all jet skis could be banned. But when you've got a nice silent Valo hydrofoil that's silently floating by the coastline, I think you'll have a lot less pushback on the product.
Exactly. I mean, blaming VCs is the wrong attitude. You know, they've got a job to do. I've got a job to do. My job is to show the world that this is an important thing that should exist. It should be funded.
Yeah, Ed. Well, I see we're at 30 minutes here. I know you've got a lot going on getting this product across the line and getting it on the water. But just for the audience, you know, so you're raising kind of $1 million in the community round. You know, how are you guys thinking about that in terms of, you know, overall, you know, valuations, financial metrics, or, you know, it's essentially an angel investment, but, you know, what do you get for participating in the company at this stage?
Yeah, there's a range of perks. All the financial details are on the site. So we're on the WeFunder platform, and the URL is wefunder.com/Valo, VALO, so Valo like Halo. SEC says that I can't talk about the terms. I have to send everybody to the website. If you're interested in what we're doing, you know, go to that WeFunder page, take a look. Sign up for updates. That way, you know, you get information on how we're progressing, how the funding campaign's going, and you can consider things. And if you really want, you can put down an investment. There's another video on there about, you know, why we think this is an exciting market. Videos about prototypes and, you know, profiles on the team and stuff like that. So it's all there on the WeFunder page, wefunder.com/Valo, and hopefully, you know, you are as excited and your viewers are really excited about what we really see as the future of how a lot of stuff and people moves over the water. You know, buoyancy technology for how most ships move, I don't know, 50,000 years old. Planing hulls maybe 60 years old. So it's, you know, we think that there's a revolution on the horizon. It's going to be powered by hydrofoil technology, and we're pretty keen on being the, you know, default supplier of all hydrofoil technology to the entire marine sector.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, in the Marhelm community, we've had a lot of people do well in shipping investments. I'm sure somebody could use an awesome hyperfoil to ride around on this. I guess not this summer, but in short order on the water. So, and I assume as soon as we see a video of Laird Hamilton riding this thing down a big ocean wave, you guys will be sold out for the next 5
years. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. The promos we're going to do once we've got the next vehicle, it's going to be, you won't be able to go anywhere without seeing this somewhere in your news feed or your Instagram feed.
No, that's perfect. Well, Ed, we appreciate you taking some time to join us today, and we'll include all the information on how to find you and the project, you know, in the comments of the video, and, you know, look forward to tracking this as you guys get closer to launch.
Thanks so much for having me, Charles. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you.